All right, guys, welcome back. Today we have a 2018 Audi S5, and this is the Prestige package. And it has a magnetic ride, which automatically kind of adjusts the suspension as it drives, and you can kind of set it too. So today we're going to be installing EMD Auto lowering springs. These are the fronts, these are the rears. They're labeled right there, so you can't get them mixed up. Comes with a little air freshener. We're also going to throw on some wheel spacers, and we also have some mud guards at the end, and we have a grill if we get to it, so that might be another video. But today we're focusing on the lowering springs. We got Red here. He's going to be doing the job. And before we put it up on the rack, I did measure the before height, and before on the front was 26.5 inches and the rear was 26 3/4. So we're going to do another check as soon as it's all lowered and we kind of roll it out. We'll check the height again to see how much of a difference it actually made. All right, guys, we didn't get the wheels off yet. There's already something special that you need just to get the lug nut caps off. You can do it with 2 hook tools, but there is actually a special tool if you're thinking ahead of time. There's these lug nut caps. They're painted plastic, so they are kind of like a graphite gray, and they're painted, but apparently there's a special tool that will pull these off, but you can kind of carefully use 2 pick tools and remove them off like that. So Brad here actually ordered the right tool ahead of time, but he didn't know we were going to schedule him in today, and he didn't get it. So next time we'll have it, but just in case you guys are thinking ahead, order that tool too. Got the front right strut assembly out. Looks like he just had to undo the bolt through the bottom of the strut mount on the front lower control arm. A couple bolts here, which kind of loosen that. So it's just kind of resting in for now. Sway bar end link right here. And then these top 2 upper control arms right here, as well as this bolt here. So, and then up top, there was a sensor that he had to undo, as well as the 3 nuts there. And then he was able to use a pry bar and wedge it out here. So it's got the spring compressor there. There's the stock spring, stock strut. He's gonna go grab a front lowering spring now, and hopefully it just goes on there real good. New lowering spring going in.
Well, I would say, you know,
Does appear that he needs to use the spring compressors probably to compress that, to get that top nut back on. So removing the spring compressors off the new lowering spring. And there you go. Look at that. It's nice. I'm gonna wedge that thing back up in there. It's going back in. It helps definitely if you're on a lift, and we used our transmission jack here to actually put pressure on the whole assembly. And there's a groove in these ball joints here, and there's like a little notch, and this bolt actually has to go in there, so you got to make sure you don't miss that point right there. But there it is. Everything's kind of tightened back up, so we got one corner done, and we're gonna move on to the back soon. Front suspension's all in. You got the left driver's side as well, and he's onto the rear, so you can definitely see we're using this transmission jack to help us a lot on this one. So on the ground, this job would be pretty difficult to do. Right here, he kind of undid the shock mount, the 2 lower control arm bolts. This one is gonna make a difference on your alignment, but you could mark it and make sure you put it back in the right spot. It does take an E series socket. I'll get you the size on that here pretty soon. We were able to use a wrench to loosen it, but to tighten it could be a different story. So we got some coming from the parts store. It's gonna get delivered out here within the hour. All right, so you got the old spring out. There's the old one. Here's the new rear lowering spring, and you just kind of transfer over your spring insulators over to the top and bottom and reinstall it in the same spot. So the rear suspension is in. It went pretty good. The only thing that's kind of difficult about this is you're dealing with this camber adjustment here, and it does use an E-socket. Now I did order some E-sockets in, except for even the strip that we got from the auto parts store here that delivers. It goes all the way from E11 to E24, and it still wasn't big enough. So I'm assuming that it takes like an E26 or an E28 or something like that. So keep that in mind. But you can get a 12-point wrench to get on there, so that worked just fine. Since that had to come loose, I do recommend getting an alignment after the install. You can mark it and put it back exactly where you exactly where they were, and that's what we did. Except for, I mean, when you lower a car, it does change a lot of the geometry, so I do recommend getting alignment to be sure and to ensure you don't wear out your tires. Anyways, we're getting ready to throw the wheels and spacers back on, lower it back down, roll it out, and we'll take another measurement on the height. Before we put the wheels back on, I just wanted to show you guys that it 22 millimeter 12-point wrench does fit on there. Now it's not perfect, but it was enough to get it loose, so it ended up working out for us. So, and that's a snap-on wrench. Worked out. So we lowered it down. He took it for a test drive, brought it back in the shop, and we re-measured. Before, in the rear, we had 26 3/4, and we got a 3/8 of an inch drop in the rear at 26 3/8. I'm sure it's going to settle a little more after they break in. In the front, we got a solid 1/2 inch. We went from 26.5 to 26 inches in the front. So this car already had a sport suspension from the factory, so it did lower it, but not super dramatically. But I'm sure it'll settle over some time, so he's going to remeasure here probably in a few days or a week or so, and maybe we'll get a little bit of an update on what it did for settling, and I'll leave it in the comments. But yeah, looks good, guys. Just remember that you do need that E-series socket. I'm not sure on the exact size, but you can use a 12-point 22 millimeter wrench. So anyways, those are the EMD auto lowering springs, and thank you guys for watching. If you could please like, comment, and subscribe, appreciate it, and we'll see you on the next one.